What's happening, folks at home? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about swim baits, body shapes, tail styles, and why they matter. We got a lot of underwater today. Let's dive in. So when we're talking about swim bait, guys, we want to understand that there are three different kinds of swim bait tails for all intents and purposes, right? The most common swim bait tail out there is the boot tail swim bait. Now, this boot tail swim bait is your go everywhere, do everything type swim bait. In water temperatures of 50 all the way up to 100, the boot tail swim bait is probably going to be your best bet. Now, the boot tail swim bait is made to make that bait roll and wobble. You can see here underwater on this, you've got that upgrade jig by Ebb N Flow kicking right there. But the cool thing about a boot tail swim bait is it's going to give a lot of action on the bait. These are your mag draft style baits, if you will. You want a lot of body roll and action from head wobble all the way down into the tail, a whole rocking back and forth action on your bait. That's going to be your boot tail swim bait. Now, this is going to do great from medium water clarity all the way to super clear water. It's a super realistic presentation, but sometimes the boot tail can be overwhelming. That's when you want to switch to what I would call the vortex tail or the wedge tail. So here is your Mulletron. This is a Huddleston tail, if you will. You can see it there. It's that fat wedge of a tail. So a wedge tail swim bait is not going to have as much rolling action. It's going to have a lot more static action. Wedge tails, 50-degree water and below, are going to be king. Dragging on the bottom, wedge tails are going to be king. Wedge tails are designed to kick at super slow speeds. They're not going to put a ton of action on a bait. Now, that's super important because when you're fishing cold water or when you're fishing pressured fish, that's the other time they work great, you don't want a lot of action on your bait. A lot of guys will roll through there with a crankbait or a swim jig or something with a lot of spinnerbait, something with a ton of action, and those fish have seen it. They don't want anything to do with it, so they go through it. The wedge vortex tail here is a slow grind. I'm dragging this bait along the bottom. I am really making sure that my action is subtle. So super clear water, pressured fish, that wedge-shaped tail is going to be the ticket for you. In big bait, in a small bait, that wedge is going to be the ticket on that. Now, as trailers, swim baits are good only in certain situations. A lot of guys throw a boot tail on the back of a chatterbait and hope for the best. You get a lazy wobble on that, it doesn't look good. That's where you want your straight up fish tail, as I would call it, or your straight tail to come in. So here you've got a Panorama by 6 Sense Fishing. This bait right here is going to have a very tight wobble, just like a normal fish, but it's not going to have any kick on its own. You need something paired with this, either a scrounger head or a wobble head or a chatterbait or a spinnerbait to create flash and vibration in that tail. Otherwise, it's just going to roll straight through there. Straight tail baits like this are good if you want a back and forth walking the dog motion on top of the water, or you want a tight wiggle underneath the water. The best chatterbait trailers lately are those, chatter spike and that missile spear point bait, literally baits with a tight tail. I like baits that look realistic on wobble heads, that look realistic on those things that are going to impart action on your bait. The boot tail just doesn't look as good. And then the other tail you have the horizontal, if you will, not vertical tail. So on this fluke, you got that horizontal tail, and that is designed solely to make that bait track right to left. It's not going to track up and down, it's going to track right to left. That's why when you fish a weightless fluke, it's going to dart side to side. Or when you throw this on a bait, it's going to create a lot of havoc and roll because that tail is in that horizontal position instead of that vertical orientation. So those are the three different types of swim baits. I like to fish these weightless. I like to fish these on something that's going to impart action. This is a do-it-all Everything can be done with a boot tail swim bait. It's just not as good in the cold. And then you have your wedge tail, which is going to shine in that cold, clear water. Just wanted to do a quick recap of all those swim bait styles for you. We've talked a lot about swim baits lately, and that's something that I haven't talked about. So if you guys are liking what's going on the channel right now, give us a like, subscribe, help us, help you. Visit Ebb N Flow, buy the upgrade jig. It's the best jig to keep your swim baits locked onto that. Go to Omnia, buy the baits there. Help support us, support you. We'll see you next time, guys. Peace out.